Basket's about to turn on.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't think I'm going to give
It's always nice to go around the other side. The first one, I thought it snores. It's like taking a place.
every step.
Do it yourself. We have an attendant lady, please. We have an attendant lady, please.
One coming in.
Oh, thanks. Right, now the idea is that these ship burials, whilst they're not common in England, there are a few, and they're much more common in Scandinavia. The thing is that this type of burial is a very good way for archaeologists to find out a great deal of information about the things which were buried with the corpse and the corpse itself indeed. And there'll be various ways of dating it which we can go on about as we talk. The first thing is the boat itself is made of wood, and therefore the thick timbers like the keel, the bow and stern posts, will offer you the chance to date the ship's completion, although of course not its burial, by dendrochronology, tree ring dating. This is very unlikely to take place through the planks themselves. The thicker timbers may give you a chance for that. Right, we can start the ceremony, please. To realise that war gear in a grave is a mark more of rank than anything else. It does not mean that the lady fought in battle, merely that she had the right to bear arms. And the right to bear arms was, at this time in history, was to the Saxons and the Vikings a very important privilege. She would have a spear in the grave with her. The mark of the professional warrior, the sword.
Give you the sword so you may defend yourself in the afterlife.
Notice that she doesn't wear it. A man buried in these circumstances in famous rank may have the sword either with him or buried, as it were, attached to him by a belt or collar. War helmet placed behind the head, not on the skull. Once again, a mark of rank and station in life, and the ability to defend her foe. Now the shield can tell us quite a lot. The wood from which the shield is made, the leather around the rim of the shield itself, and the boss. The boss will mineralise the wood behind the rivets as it drops. And this would enable you to tell what kind of wood it was. And in some circumstances, the place where the tree grew. If it grew in a wet environment or in a dry one. The shield is covered in cloth, and it's unusual for pates to survive, but not impossible. It does happen sometimes. There was a burial in the Isle of Man, I recall, which had which paint and gesso were covered.
This plan here is explaining how people used to bury or honour.
And the final mark of the warrior, the mail shirt. A fine mail shirt with this 6mm ring would have been a great gift to place in a grave. We're not talking about fourpence here. This is 15,000-20,000 quid's worth in their terms. And as you notice, it's balled up. That's usually the way they were buried. They weren't spread out, and it means that if you have a mail block of mail like this, you can X-ray it, and the rings in the centre are sufficiently corroded, because you can tell something about the way they were made. Almost all mail shirts at this time were riveted shut, so that the rings at their ends have a tiny hole and either a wedge or a round rivet through that hole, which holds the ring together. Alternate rows of rings will be either solid rows or welded. We don't know how they welded rings. It was a real tour de force to be able to do that, because the ring only has about a second for you to hit it before it's below welding temperature. A mail shirt like this would have been a very valuable asset to anyone, and to have it buried in the grave with you is a great mark of respect.
I have here a box of precious things, including her comb and a fairly rare glass linen smoother.
The linen smoother would be a very useful thing. They were not uncommon, glass linen smoothers, and as you see, it's just a blob of glass, and it's used, as it sounds, to smooth damp linen. Often, this might be used hot, or the linen might have been dampened when it was warm, or you might wet it and bring it into the sun. It's one of the things that you do to pleat a garment, is to use a piece of glass to press pleats in. The comb itself is made of antler, and each section has about 5 or 6 teeth. The antler is tougher than bone, about 6 times tougher than bone, not easily broken, but if one of the tines of the comb is broken, then one of the sections will be removed and a new section put in, that have to throw the whole comb away.
There's a flute making hats like you.
Bone spoon, a horn spoon would have not been uncommon, and would be for somebody who was a little bit better off than somebody who was like the rest of us, eating with a wooden spoon. Also in the chest is a fine whetstone. This was the mark of high rank, because it meant that you had the ability to sharpen the weapon with your field or anything. A needle case with, would you believe, needles in it, and various other bits and pieces, including a small bone flute. Does not come into my expertise. The box itself is made of wood, and as you see, it has iron fittings. The iron fittings once again mineralise the timber beneath them, so you can tell what kind of timber the box was made of.
I bring the tools of the trade. A weaving sword, placing the weft up through the cloth. Spindle, so that she can make wool. Continue weaving at the next slide.
So she may have been a spinster.
Her finest cloak that she wove on the warp-plated loom, and tablet braids to edge her new dresses.
This would take some time to weave, he said, looking at the person who just got away. How long would it take to weave this?
Probably a few days of weaving, but the spinning would have taken all winter to spin the cloth, and the setting up of the loom to weave that cloth would have taken a couple of days as well. So it's a very valuable piece of material.
It's our theory that if you weren't doing anything else, you were spinning. The children did it, the grown-ups did it. Anyone who wasn't doing something else was spinning. Took the longest to do in the household. And it was something which anybody could do.
Nice to see you.
Taffel game.
Which one?
And a harp game.
What about?
The lyre, I should say, the shape is more because they tended to be different shapes. So you can define where the harp, where the lyre came from. That to an extent tells you where the person came from. These people were great travellers, and they may well travelled all around Europe before they finally settled down somewhere. The strings from which it's made were unusually, they couldn't be iron. The iron technology required to draw wire to make strings for lyres and harps is probably what led to the ability to make chainmail in the first place. Chainmail at this time was many hundred years old. It was invented in the days of the Roman Empire, around 300 BC. The Romans took it everywhere across the empire, so mail was not an uncommon form of armour. Only for wealthy people, not uncommon.
Here is food for her journey to the afterlife.
Ale that we shared as friends.
Now here's a prize for the archaeologist, pottery. There's nothing better than pottery except for coins to date and find. Pots change. Individual potters follow a style. The style tends to be remarkably widespread, and the local variances are not great, so you can date and find quite accurately from the pottery evidence. So it's really important. You often wondered on time team why they go so potty, why they go so crazy when they find a rough old piece of broken pot. It's because they can take the wine. They don't always make that very clear. Food for the journey. Obviously, the lady is laid in her ship. Therefore, they are expecting the journey to be long. Therefore, she will need food. Very likely, meat will be placed in the grave as well. What would happen now is it is unlikely that this would be bounded up with earth straight away. Word travelled very slowly, and there may be many people who wish to make some kind of offering to this lady before the body was buried. So a small wooden house would be built in the middle section with doors, so that when you heard that she had died, and you would come to see her, and it might be as much as a year later, and there's some evidence from the Sutton ship burial that that's what they did there. So you would come along, the doors would be open, and your offering would be placed inside for the dead person. And then finally, possibly on the anniversary of her death, although we're not sure about that, this is supposition, the mound would be then mounded up and she would be finally buried. So that gives you a fair idea of the sort of things you would find associated with a ship burial and kind of things archaeologists learn from the pottery evidence, coins perhaps in there, and foreign evidence tracked under where behind the ropes where it's been mineralised. Everything like this, the detailed evidence is most important, and the contextual evidence in the grave is far more important than any gold brooches. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That brings to an end. We have some guards at the end.